The twin moons of Aravian hung over the shining alien city. Glass towers touched the clouds and blue lights ran through the streets like rivers of fire. Inside one of those tall crystal halls, silence ruled. The air felt heavy, cold and waiting. Lyra stood before her mother, her heart racing fast. Her mother, Lady Selene, was tall, proud, and known for her strength in the council. She looked at her daughter with calm, sharp eyes. Behind her stood Lyra's brother and 2 family guards. They all waited for Lyra to speak. Lyra's voice trembled as she said, "Mom, I need to tell you something." Selene tilted her head slightly, her silver hair catching the light. "Then say it, child. What could trouble you this much?" Lyra's hands shook. Her long blue fingers clutched her robe tightly. She closed her eyes, took a breath, and whispered, "Mom, I'm pregnant." The room went still. Her mother blinked once, confusion flashing across her face. "Pregnant?" she repeated slowly. "But how?" "You are not bonded. No one has come to ask for your hand." Lyra's throat dried. Her voice came out small but clear. "It's not one of our kind, it's a human." The guards gasped. Her brother shouted, "Impossible!" "A human?" Lady Selene's face turned pale. For a moment she couldn't speak. When she finally did, her voice was low but full of fire. "Tell me you are joking, Lyra." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "I'm not. His name is Ethan. He saved my life." Selene stood up slowly, her long robe sliding across the floor like flowing water. "Saved your life? Humans are violent. They are wild animals compared to us. They destroy everything they touch." Lyra shook her head. "He's not like that, Mother. He's brave, kind, and—" "Silence." Selene's voice echoed through the hall, shaking the crystal walls. The guard stepped forward, but Lyra raised a hand to stop them. "Mother, please listen," she said softly. "I met him when I went beyond the city borders. He was hurt. He had no weapons, no food. He was alone in the forest. I could have left him there, but something stopped me." Selene's eyes narrowed. "You brought him here?" Lyra shook her head again. "No, I hid him. I helped him recover. He told me stories about Earth, about his people. He was not a monster, he was human." Her brother stepped closer. "And now he has made you carry his child." "He used you." "No," Lyra said firmly. "He loved me. I loved him." Selene's voice turned cold. "You don't know what love is, Lyra. You've been fooled. You've let a savage touch you. Do you understand what this means? The council will see this as treason." Lyra took a deep breath. "I don't care what they think. I only care about him and our child." Selene turned away, her face unreadable. She walked to the tall glass window and looked out at the glowing city below. The lights reflected in her eyes like tiny stars. "A child between our kind and a human cannot survive," she said quietly. "The DNA is too different. The last time someone tried, the baby died before birth." Lyra placed a trembling hand on her stomach. "Then I will protect this one. I feel its heartbeat, Mother. It's strong." Selene's hand tightened into a fist. "You risk everything for this human? Your name, your place, your future?" Lyra's voice cracked, but she stood tall. "Yes, because for the first time I felt alive with him." A heavy silence filled the room again. Selene turned to face her daughter. Her eyes were wet, but her pride kept the tears from falling. "You are my daughter," she said slowly. "But what you've done may destroy us all." Lyra's brother moved closer to his mother. "We must report this to the council," he said harshly. "If we hide her secret, we'll be punished too." Selene didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on Lyra. "Where is this human now?" Lyra looked down. "He's gone. I helped him escape when our patrols came searching. But I know he'll come back for me." "He promised." Selene's expression hardened again. "If he returns, they will kill him." Lyra lifted her chin. "Then I'll protect him, just as he protected me." Selene turned away once more. "Leave me," she said quietly. "I need time to think." Lyra wanted to speak again, but her mother's voice froze her in place. "Go, Lyra. Before I forget, you are my child." Lyra bowed her head and walked out of the room. The guard stepped aside as she passed. Outside, the night wind blew softly across the glowing streets. She touched her belly again and whispered, "I will keep you safe no matter what." From inside the hall, Selene's cold mask broke. She sank into her chair, her hands trembling. She whispered to herself, "A human. How could this happen?" Her son looked at her, anger and fear mixing in his voice. "We must act fast, Mother. If the council learns before we do, she'll be taken away." Selene nodded slowly. I know. I will speak to the High Council myself. She looked out the window once more, her voice filled with worry. If the humans learn of this too, there could be war. As the twin moons glowed brighter, Lyra disappeared into the misty streets. Somewhere beyond the shining towers, a human named Ethan looked up at the same sky, whispering her name. And in that moment, two worlds began to move toward a fate neither could escape. The forest outside the alien city was a place no one dared to enter after dark. The air shimmered with glowing mist and strange sounds moved between the trees. Lyra had come here many times for peace, to escape her strict home and the noise of the council halls. But on that night she found something she never expected. She was walking near the river when she heard a crash. Branches broke. A shadow fell from the sky. It was a small escape pod, half buried in the mud. Smoke rose from it and she could smell burned metal. Cautiously, Lyra stepped closer. Her eyes caught a glimpse of movement inside. A man lay there, his body bruised, his arm bleeding. His face was rough, his clothes torn. But when he opened his eyes, she froze. They were brown and warm, full of fear and fire. He tried to speak, but his voice was weak. "Please, help me." For a moment, Lyra hesitated. Humans were forbidden on her planet. The council called them dangerous and unclean. But this man didn't look like a monster. He looked like someone fighting to stay alive. She pressed a button on her wrist, activating her healing patch. The light covered his wound. He winced, then relaxed as the pain faded. "You're safe," she said softly. "Don't move." He tried to sit up. "Whose are you?" "I'm Lyra," she said. "You're on Aravion, the alien homeworld. How did you get here?" He looked confused. "My ship was attacked. I escaped in that pod. I didn't mean to land here," she frowned. "You shouldn't be here. If anyone finds you, they'll kill you." He gave a tired smile. "Then I guess I owe you my life." Something in his voice made her heart beat faster. She looked away quickly, pretending to check the area. "You can't stay here," she said. "There's an old cave nearby. I'll hide you there." Together they moved through the misty forest. The man limped and she supported him with her arm. He was taller than her, rough and scarred, yet his eyes never left hers. There was no fear in them now, only trust. Inside the cave, Lyra gave him food and water from her supply pack. He ate slowly, watching her with quiet curiosity. "You're not afraid of me?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "Should I be? Your people call us savages," he said. "I thought you'd run." "I don't believe everything they say," she replied. "I like to see the truth myself." He smiled again, and it made her chest tighten in a strange way. "Then you're different from the others. What's your name?" she asked. "Ethan," he said. "Ethan Ward." The sound of his name stayed in her mind long after he spoke it. Days passed. Lyra kept visiting the cave, bringing food and medicine. She taught him words in her language, and he taught her his. Sometimes they laughed at each other's mistakes. Other times they just sat in silence, listening to the wind move through the forest. He told her stories of Earth, blue oceans, crowded cities, and music that made people dance. She told him about Aravion, floating temples, energy crystals, and a sky that sang at dawn. Each day she stayed longer than before. She began to feel something she couldn't name. When he smiled, it warmed her heart. When he hurt, she hurt too, but danger was never far. Patrol drones flew over the forest searching for signs of human life. Lyra had to erase her tracks every time she visited him. If her family found out, it would mean exile or worse. One night, as rain fell outside the cave, Ethan looked at her and said, "Why are you risking this?" "You could be killed if they find me." Lyra looked at him quietly. "Because you're not what they say you are." "Because you saved me once too." He frowned. "Saved you?" She nodded. "Before I found your pod, I was lost in that storm. I could have died if your crash hadn't lit the forest. That light guided me home. Maybe we saved each other." For a moment they said nothing. The rain outside became heavier. The light of the fire flickered across their faces. Ethan reached out slowly, touching her hand. "Thank you, Lyra." Her heart skipped. His touch was warm and human. She wanted to pull away, but she didn't. Instead, she whispered, "You should rest." He nodded, closing his eyes. Lyra stayed beside him, watching the fire die down. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. She knew the patrols would search again soon, but she also knew one thing now. She would not let them find him. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt fear. and love at the same time. And both were for the same man. As the storm ended, her heart whispered a truth she couldn't speak aloud. The forbidden had begun. Days turned into weeks, and the forest became their secret world. Every morning, Lyra brought food, medicine, and sometimes small tools from her home. She made sure no one followed her. The guards never suspected her visits to the Forbidden Zone. To them, she was just a noble daughter studying the stars. But in truth, she was risking everything for the human who lived in the cave. Ethan had grown stronger. His wounds healed, and he started to explore the area around his hiding place. He had built a small shelter of stone and wood beside the river. It was rough and simple, but Lyra liked it. It felt alive. It smelled of rain, earth, and freedom, so different from the cold glass halls of her city. Sometimes Ethan hunted small creatures for food. Other times he carved strange shapes into wood, little gifts for her. She kept them hidden in her robe, treasures no one could ever see. When they spoke, it felt like time stopped. They shared their worlds piece by piece. Ethan told her about the stars humans had reached, the wars they fought, and the families they lost. Lyra told him about her people's ancient wisdom, about crystals that stored memories, and about how her kind believed emotions made one weak. Ethan laughed softly. If emotions make you weak, then maybe weakness is what makes us human. Lyra smiled faintly. Maybe that's why I can't stop coming here. At night, they sat beside the fire, the orange light dancing on their faces. Sometimes he would hum old Earth songs, and she would listen quietly, letting the sound wrap around her heart. One evening, a cold wind blew through the forest. The sky turned dark with clouds, and lightning split the sky. Rain started to fall hard. Lyra tried to leave for the city, but the storm was too strong. The path had flooded. Ethan pulled her inside his shelter. You can't go out in this, he said firmly. Lyra nodded, soaked from the rain. Her thin robe clung to her skin, and she shivered from the cold. Ethan lit another fire, his movements quick and calm. Sit near the flames, he said. You'll catch a fever. She sat close to the fire, her hands stretched to the heat. Ethan removed his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. You'll be warm soon, she looked up at him. You always help me, she said softly. Even when I should be helping you. He smiled. Maybe that's what friends do. Her eyes met his. Are we only friends? The question hung between them. The sound of rain filled the silence. Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he sat beside her, their shoulders touching. The warmth from the fire mixed with the warmth of his body. Lyra turned her head slightly. She could hear his heartbeat. It was strong and steady. Her chest felt tight, not from fear but from something deeper. Outside, thunder rolled again, shaking the shelter. Lyra jumped, and Ethan gently placed his hand over hers. It's just the storm, he said. She looked at him, eyes wide. I'm not afraid of the storm, she whispered. In that moment, they both knew what the other felt. The air between them grew still. His hand moved slowly, brushing a wet strand of her hair away from her face. Then, without words, he kissed her. It was soft and trembling, full of warmth and longing. For Lyra, the world seemed to stop. Every rule, every fear, every law of her people faded away. There was only this moment, only this feeling. When the storm ended, they sat together in silence. The fire had burned low. Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. Ethan looked at her with gentle eyes. You know this can't last forever, he said quietly. They'll come for me one day, Lyra nodded. Then I'll stand with you when they do, he smiled sadly. You don't know what that means. I know exactly what it means, she said. And I don't care. The next morning she left before dawn. The forest was quiet again, but her heart was not. She felt both joy and fear. She knew her people would never forgive her if they found out. But it was too late. She was no longer just a noble daughter of Aravion. She was something new, someone who had felt love. As she reached the edge of the city, she looked back at the forest. The rising sun painted the trees gold. Somewhere inside those woods, Ethan was waiting. Lyra whispered softly, until tonight. But above her, a small silver drone drifted through the air, its red sensor light blinking. It had recorded her path. It had seen everything. The secret she thought was safe was no longer hidden, and soon, the hunt would begin. The morning after the storm, the city of Aravion was full of whispers. Patrol drones had returned from the forest, carrying images of movement and heat signatures. The High Guard believed there was a human hiding within the restricted zones. For the Alien Council, that meant only one thing: danger. Lyra didn't know it yet. She moved through the crystal corridors of her home, her thoughts still lost in the memory of Ethan's touch and the warmth of that night. She felt light, almost free, but deep inside something heavy waited to break. Her brother Kyle was waiting in the main hall. His face was cold and sharp. "Where were you last night?" he asked. Lyra froze. "In my chamber," she lied quietly. Kale's eyes narrowed. "Strange. The patrol logs say someone with your signature was seen near the border forest." Lyra forced a smile. Maybe a scanner error. Kale didn't respond. He just stared at her, long enough to make her uneasy. Then he said, "Mother wants to see you." In the council chamber, Lady Celine stood before a hologram of the forest map. Red dots blinked where the drones had detected movement. One dot pulsed brighter than the others, the location of Ethan's shelter. Celine's voice was calm but heavy. "A human is out there. We must find him before the council does." Lyra's chest tightened. "You already know?" Celine turned to face her daughter. "I know enough. I hoped I was wrong." Kale stepped closer, holding a data crystal. "The drone found this. Look." He activated the image. The hologram flickered, and there she was, Lyra, standing beside the human man. Her face was clear, her hand resting on his arm. Celine's breath caught. Kale's jaw tightened. "So it's true," he said. "You broke every law we have." Lyra's voice trembled, but she tried to stay strong. "He's not dangerous." "He's not what you think," Kale shouted. "He's a human. They kill, they burn, they spread chaos." Celine raised her hand. "Enough." The silence that followed was worse than shouting. Lyra looked at her mother with pleading eyes. "Please don't tell the council. They'll kill him." Celine's face softened for a moment, but her voice stayed steady. "You've put us all in danger, Lyra. If the council learns before we act, they will take you too." "I can make this right," Lyra said quickly. "Let me find him first. I'll make him leave the planet." Kyle shook his head. "You've done enough. The patrols are already moving. You can't stop them." Lyra turned and ran before they could stop her. The guards shouted after her, but she didn't care. She sprinted through the shining streets, out past the energy gates, and into the forest once more. The forest was alive with sound. Drones buzzing overhead, soldiers shouting in the distance. She followed the familiar path to Ethan's shelter. Her heart pounded in her chest. When she reached the clearing, the shelter was half destroyed. Smoke still rose from the broken roof. Ethan was inside, holding a weapon, breathing hard. "Lyra!" he said when he saw her. "They found me." "I know," she said, rushing to him. "You have to go now," he shook his head. "I'm not leaving you." "You must," she said. "They're coming from every direction." Ethan grabbed her hand. "Come with me." Lyra hesitated. "If I go, they'll hunt us both. You don't understand how far they'll go." "Then we run," he said. "Together." She looked into his eyes and saw the same fire that had first drawn her in. But behind them, the sound of engines grew louder. "They're here," she whispered. Laser beams lit the trees. Voices shouted commands. Ethan aimed his weapon and fired, stunning one of the soldiers. Lyra threw up a force shield to block the next blast. "Go," she cried. Ethan tried to pull her with him, but a beam hit his shoulder. He fell to the ground. Lyra knelt beside him, her hands glowing as she pressed against the wound. "You'll be fine," she said. "I can heal this." "Leave me," he said through gritted teeth. "They need you alive." Tears burned in her eyes. "I won't leave you again." The forest burned with red light as more soldiers surrounded them. Lyra grabbed a small cube from her belt, a forbidden teleport device. It was unstable and banned by her people. She pressed it against Ethan's chest. "This will take you far away." "It's the only way." Ethan reached for her hand. "Come with me." "I can't," she whispered. "If I go, they'll track us both." "But I'll find you. I promise." Before he could answer, she activated the device. Light exploded around him. When it faded, he was gone. Lyra fell to her knees, breathing hard. The soldiers closed in. She didn't resist when they grabbed her. Kale arrived moments later, his face pale. "You should have stayed home," he said quietly. Lyra looked up at him. "He's gone." "You can't hurt him now," Kale sighed. "No, but you've sealed your fate." As they dragged her away, she looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, Ethan was alive, and now nothing on Aravion could stop what had begun between them. Months passed. The city of Aravian moved on, but whispers never truly died. People spoke softly in markets and alleys about the noble daughter who broke sacred law, the girl who loved a human. Lyra was kept under house arrest inside her family's mansion, guarded day and night. Her once bright eyes had grown dull, her spirit heavy with waiting. Every night she stood at her window staring at the stars. Somewhere beyond that sky, Ethan was alive. She could feel it. The teleport had sent him far away, perhaps even back to the human border colonies. But she believed he would come back for her. He had promised. Her mother rarely spoke to her now. Lady Celine had chosen silence over anger. Cale handled all council matters, trying to clean the family's name. But deep down, even he knew their reputation would never be the same. One night, as Lyra stood by the window, she felt a strange vibration in the air. The crystal towers outside flickered. The sky turned dim and energy alarms began to ring. Guards shouted, "Unidentified vessel approaching!" Lyra's heart raced. She knew that sound. Out in the distance, a ship broke through the clouds, small, black, fast. It moved like no alien craft she had ever seen. It landed just outside the energy barrier, crushing the silver grass beneath its thrusters. The guards surrounded it instantly, weapons raised. A figure stepped out, tall and human. His armor shimmered with a mix of metal and alien crystal. His right arm glowed with implanted energy veins. His eyes burned with determination. "Ethan," Lyra whispered, her breath catching. The guards shouted for him to surrender. Ethan raised his hands slowly, then dropped a pulse grenade that flashed with light. In seconds, the entire line of soldiers fell unconscious. He moved through the smoke, his steps firm, his purpose clear. Lyra ran to the door, but her guard stopped her. "You can't leave, Miss Lyra," one said. "The intruder is dangerous." "He's not dangerous," she said, her voice rising. "He's here for me." She pushed past them, racing through the glowing corridors. The air smelled of ozone and burning crystal. When she reached the outer courtyard, Ethan was there, standing in the center, surrounded by wrecked drones. When he saw her, his expression softened. "Lyra," he said quietly. She stopped a few steps away, eyes wide. "You came back. I told you I would," he said. "I couldn't leave you here." She ran to him and held him tightly. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "They'll kill you if they catch you again." "I didn't come to hide this time," he said. "I came to take you home." Before she could answer, Cale appeared with a squad of guards. "You," he shouted. "You dare come here again?" Ethan turned, calm but ready. "I don't want to fight." Cale aimed his blaster. "Then surrender." Lyra stepped in front of Ethan. "Brother, please." "Don't do this." Cale's jaw tightened. "You're protecting him again? Even after what he's done to our family?" "He hasn't destroyed us," Lyra said. "Your hatred has," Kyle hesitated. For a moment, something in his sister's voice made him lower the weapon, but before he could speak, one of the guards fired. The shot hit Ethan's armor, sending him back a step. Lyra screamed. Ethan turned, firing a stun pulse from his gauntlet. The guard fell. Chaos erupted. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and soldiers poured into the courtyard. Celine arrived at the top of the stairs, her face pale. "Stop!" she shouted. But no one listened. Ethan took Lyra's hand. "We need to go now." "Where?" she asked. "Anywhere but here," he said. They ran through the halls, dodging blaster fire and broken glass. The mansion trembled under explosions. Ethan's armor shield flickered with every hit. Lyra guided him through hidden paths she had learned as a child. At last they reached the edge of the outer dome, the force field that kept the city sealed. Ethan pulled a small crystal shard from his chest plate. "This is from your world," he said. "You gave it to me when I left. I rebuilt it into a key." He pressed it against the dome. The energy rippled, creating a small opening. Lyra looked at him, tears in her eyes. "If we leave now, there's no going back." Ethan smiled softly. "I stopped looking back the day I met you." They stepped through the field, the light swallowing them both. Behind them, Cale reached the barrier too late. He watched helplessly as the dome sealed again. "Find them," he ordered, his voice shaking. "Find them before the council does." Far beyond the city lights, Ethan's ship rose into the sky. Lyra looked back once more, her world growing smaller beneath her. She held Ethan's hand and whispered, "Now we're both fugitives." He smiled faintly. "Then we face it together." As the ship vanished into the clouds, a storm began to form over Aravion. For the first time in centuries, the alien sky thundered with a sound no one could explain. A human's return had broken the calm of an entire world, and the love that was once forbidden had now become a rebellion. The ship sliced through the dark clouds, glowing blue trails behind it. Lyra sat near the window, her eyes lost in the endless stars. Her hands rested on her stomach. It had been weeks since they escaped from Aravion, and something inside her had changed. She could feel a heartbeat other than her own. Ethan watched her quietly from the other side of the cabin. He could see her face pale from exhaustion, but her eyes still carried strength. "You should rest," he said softly. Lyra smiled faintly. "Rest is a luxury fugitives can't afford." Ethan moved closer and knelt beside her. "You're not just a fugitive. You're carrying our child." Her eyes widened. "How did you know?" He placed his hand gently on her stomach. "I can feel it. You're warmer than before." Lyra looked down, a small tear forming. "If the council learns about this, they'll hunt us forever." "They already are," he said. "So let's stop running." Lyra looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Ethan stood and looked out the window at the stars. "We go back," Lyra shook her head. "That's madness," he turned to her. "Maybe, but if we keep running, they'll never stop. If we return and face them, maybe we can show them what we really are." Before she could respond, the ship's alarm beeped. Sensors flashed red. "They've found us," Ethan said. Outside, 3 alien cruisers appeared, bright with Aravion's royal symbols. They surrounded the ship like wolves. Ethan tightened his jaw. "Hold on." The ship shook as beams of light hit the hull. He tried to break through, but a tractor field pulled them in. Within minutes, their ship was trapped inside a massive docking bay. Armed guards surrounded them. Ethan looked at Lyra. "Stay behind me." The doors opened, and cold light flooded the cabin. Kale stepped forward in full command armor, blaster in hand. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed pain. "You should have stayed gone, sister." Lyra stood tall beside Ethan. "We came to speak, not to fight." Kyle signaled the guards. "Take them both." Ethan raised his weapon, but Lyra placed her hand on his arm. "No, let them take us. Maybe this is the only way." They were brought back to the council chamber, the same hall where Lyra had once stood before her mother. Now hundreds of eyes watched from the tiers above. Lady Selene sat at the center of the high court, her face unreadable. "You return here, human, even after defying our laws?" Ethan met her gaze. "I didn't come to defy you. I came to tell you the truth." Selene's voice was calm. "And what truth would that be?" "That your daughter didn't betray your people. She showed them something they've forgotten. Compassion." The council murmured in disapproval. One elder rose. "Compassion is weakness. It destroys order." Ethan looked around at them all. "Then maybe order needs to change." Selene's eyes narrowed. "You speak boldly for a man who stands on trial for his life." Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. "He speaks because I asked him to. I chose him. I love him." Gasps filled the room. The elders shouted for silence, but Lyra's words hung heavy in the air. Selene stood slowly. "You are with child, aren't you?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." The chamber went silent again. Selene stepped down from her seat, her steps slow. "That child? It cannot survive. It is not meant to exist." Ethan's hands clenched. "You're wrong.
It's alive."
It's proof that your kind and mine are not enemies." One elder laughed bitterly. "A hybrid is not a bridge, it's an abomination." Selene raised a hand to silence him. Her eyes stayed fixed on her daughter. "Lyra, do you understand what this means? The council will demand execution. Not just for him, for you." Lyra held her head high. "Then let them see the child first." Selene frowned. "You mean—" Lyra cried out suddenly, clutching her stomach. The room erupted in panic. Ethan rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. "She's going into labor," he said urgently. Guards hesitated, unsure what to do. Selene's mask of authority cracked. "Bring medical units," she ordered. Moments later, Lyra lay on the cold floor of the council hall. Ethan held her hand, whispering, "You can do this. Just breathe." Her cries echoed through the chamber as the child entered the world. The baby's skin glowed faintly, shimmering between blue and pale. Tiny human eyes opened, bright gold like the energy crystals of Aravion. Everyone fell silent. Even the elders stared in awe. The baby cooed softly, light radiating from its small body. Selene knelt beside them, tears filling her eyes. "Impossible," she whispered. "It's alive." Lyra smiled weakly. You see now, Mother. Life finds a way. Ethan looked at Celine. This child isn't a curse. It's a bridge between us. Celine looked from the baby to Ethan. Something in her heart finally broke. The wall of hate. The years of fear. She placed her hand on the baby's head. He carries both worlds in his blood. The elders murmured, uncertain now. The strongest one, who had demanded punishment, stepped back in silence. Celine stood and faced the council. There will be no execution today. Judgment must wait until we understand what this child represents. Ethan held Lyra close. You saved us, he whispered. Celine looked at them both. No, you saved us all. But as the hall began to quiet far above the city, a dark ship moved through the clouds, an unknown vessel with weapons armed. The empire beyond Aravion had learned of the hybrid child, and they were coming. The city of Aravion had never seen a dawn like this one. The twin suns rose through clouds of gold, lighting the great crystal towers until they shone like living fire. But the glow outside could not calm the storm inside the council halls. Word of the hybrid child had spread faster than light. Some called it a miracle. Others whispered that it was a threat that could destroy everything they knew. Lyra sat in a quiet chamber beside Ethan. She looked pale, but peaceful, her newborn child sleeping in her arms. The baby's faint glow lit the room softly. Ethan sat close, watching her and the child with silent awe. He's perfect, he whispered. Lyra smiled tiredly. He is both of us. Ethan reached out and gently touched the child's tiny hand. Half human, half alien. Do you think the world will ever accept him? Lyra looked up at the window where the suns met on the horizon. They don't need to. He will make them. Before Ethan could answer, the doors opened. Lady Celine entered, wearing her royal robes, but without her usual coldness. Behind her walked Kale, his face conflicted, his pride swallowed by the weight of what he had seen. Celine looked at her daughter, her voice quiet, but clear. The council has decided to spare you. But the elders are divided. Some believe this child is dangerous. Others see him as a sign of change. They have left the final decision to me. Lyra held her mother's gaze. And what do you believe, Mother? Celine walked closer. She stopped beside the cradle and looked down at the sleeping child. When I saw him born, I saw no danger. Only life, and I realized something. Our people fear what they do not understand. Kyle stepped forward slowly. Mother, if the council hears you speak like this, they'll remove you from the seat of power. Celine turned to him calmly. Then they can have the seat. I will not rule through fear anymore. Ethan stood. They won't stop coming. The empire beyond your borders knows about us now. They'll come for the child. Celine nodded. I know, their ships are already on the way. We intercepted their signals. They see your child as a weapon, a fusion of two species. Lyra's grip tightened around the baby. They can't have him. Celine's eyes softened. They won't. I have prepared a transport. You must leave before the Imperial fleet arrives. Ethan shook his head. You're risking everything for us. I'm protecting my blood, she said firmly. And maybe in doing so I'll save my people from the mistakes of our past. Kale looked at his sister, his expression unreadable. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he took off his command insignia and placed it on the table. If anyone asks, I'll tell them you died in the escape. It's the only way to buy you time. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Kyle, he looked away. Just go. Don't make me regret it. Celine handed Ethan a small crystal disc. This contains safe coordinates beyond our star systems. You'll find refuge there, and one day when your child is grown, bring him back. Maybe then our worlds will be ready. Ethan nodded. I promise. Moments later they boarded a small stealth craft hidden beneath the palace docks. Lyra sat beside Ethan, holding their child close as the engines hummed softly. Celine stood by the hatch, her eyes fixed on her daughter. Mother, Lyra said softly, will you be all right? Celine smiled sadly. Mothers always are. Now go. The door closed. The ship lifted into the sky. Through the window, Lyra watched her home shrink into the distance until it became a blue spark among the stars. Ethan reached over and took her hand. We're free, he said quietly. Lyra leaned her head on his shoulder. Freedom isn't enough. We have to build something new. The baby stirred, eyes opening for the first time. They glowed brighter than before, reflecting both the human warmth of his father and the alien light of his mother. Lyra kissed his forehead. You will show them what love really means. Outside the ship, the stars spread like an ocean. Ahead lay a world unknown, a place untouched by either race. Behind them, the Empire's fleet appeared in the distance, massive ships searching for something they could no longer find. Selene stood alone in her palace, watching the sky. The council demanded answers, but she said nothing. She only whispered to herself, "Let them chase the old world. My daughter carries the new one." Far away in the endless dark of space, the small ship vanished into the glow of a rising nebula, and there, beyond the reach of war and fear, began the story of a child who would one day unite two worlds, born of courage, bound by love, and destined to rewrite the stars.